Hello everyone, we continue with Chapter 7, Part 3. Dawn came, and Hijikata led the advance guard in an attack on Utsunomiya Castle itself. Their previous cowardice now forgotten, his troops fell upon the castle's defenders with great vigour. "They keep this up. Taking this castle might be easier than I thought," said Hijikata. He looked at me with a slight grin just as Shimada appeared. Hijikata, the men we sent to the banquet hall ran into trouble," said Shimada. "What? We haven't seen any real resistance so far." "I don't know the details," said Shimada. Should I go see?" "No, I'll go," said Hijikata. "I'm leaving you in charge here." "Yes, sir." Hijikata, what should I do?" "Come with me. Don't want you wandering around. Might get hit by a stray bullet or something." "Okay." Even before we stepped into the banquet hall, I knew something was wrong. Inside, our men were dead on the floor, their bodies laid out like the spokes of a wheel, and at the hub of that wheel... "What are you doing here?" said Hijikata. "Decided you'd take a vacation? You do know there's a war out there, right? Or maybe you're just hiding out here hoping you won't get hurt." The only two men still standing in the banquet hall weren't strangers. They were Kazama and Amagiri, the demons. Why are you here?" "We are acting under orders from the Satsuma domain," said Kyuju Amagiri. "We are here to deliver a secret message. We did not expect to be drawn into a battle here, and we certainly did not expect to encounter you." "Oh, I get it," said Hijikata. "The new government says bend over, and you guys say how far? Well, you're sure dedicated. You've got my respect." "Well, I didn't think I'd see you again so soon, Hijikata," said Kazama. "Or whatever your name is." Kazama's eyes glittered like a pair of rubies. "Didn't think you were so anxious to get your face all cut up again. Oh, don't worry, I'm happy to oblige," said Hijikata. "Damn you," said Kazama. Kazama ground his teeth and drew the sword slung at his hip. It wasn't the sword he'd worn the last time we'd met. This one shone in a strange, disquieting way, almost as if it simply generated its own light rather than reflecting what hit it. I found myself unable to look away. "Killing you will erase the humiliation I suffered at your hand," said Kazama. "You and your minions have been a thorn in my side since Kyoto. Today I will have my revenge. Amagiri, you stay out of this. He's mine." Amagiri sighed and gave a minuscule shrug. "As you wish." He padded to a corner and folded his arms in silence. Guess the face wasn't enough, eh?" said Hijikata. "Maybe if I take an arm this time you'll get the message." White washed across Hijikata's hair. "Grah!" He leapt across the room at Kazama like a bullet from a gun. "Heh," said Kazama. Kazama blocked Hijikata's strike calmly, and their blades rattled against one another. Then Kazama pushed back and Hijikata was thrown across the room. "You're not getting away," said Kazama. In the blink of an eye he leapt after his opponent and whipped out his sword in a quick slash. "Ah," said Hijikata. Hijikata brought up the kanisada at the last moment, catching Kazama's strike before it could hit him. "You're slow," said Kazama. "Your movements lack finesse. Don't tell me that killing humans has tired you out. I thought you said something last time about being a demon." Said Hijikata. His sword began to shake. Kazama's edged closer. He was right, though. Even with fury-enhanced speed and strength, Hijikata was slower than before, less focused. "Ah, I see. The sun's still up, isn't it?" said Kazama. "And you don't like the sun much, do you?" A cruel, arrogant grin spread across his face, filled with altogether too many teeth. "Well, don't worry, I won't go easy just because you're weak. After all, a samurai always gives all he can, no matter the situation. That is your code, isn't it?" said Kazama. "Damn you." Hijikata leapt backwards, but he wasn't fast enough. Kazama's sword licked out. "Ah," said Hijikata. The glowing blade traced a brilliant red line across his chest. Blood erupted and splattered to the floor as Hijikata dropped to his knees. "Ah!" The front of his shirt began to turn red, and drops of blood fell to the floor beneath him. But he'd be okay. He was a fury. Any moment now, the bleeding would stop. "Ah?" But it didn't. Agonizing seconds stretched on, and still blood flowed from Hijikata's chest. "What is this?" said Hijikata. "Hey, ah ha ha," said Kazama. "Ah ha ha! What's the matter? Not healing like you should?" Kazama's grin spread even wider and he hefted his sword. "This sword is Yasutsuna's Demon Slayer. It was used by the legendary Yurimitsu Minamoto to kill the demon known as Shutendoji. It's been passed down through the Kazama family for generations, but no one has ever thought to test it on a demon. This seemed like an excellent chance to see what it could do. And what do you know? I get to use it to put down a fake demon." Hijikata met Kazama's gloating smirk in kind. "Hey, must be getting pretty desperate if you're willing to grab your family's magic sword," said Hijikata. "Really need something like that to take on a fake demon?" He gave a taunting laugh, but Kazama's grin didn't even twitch. "You humiliated me for the first time in my life. Nothing is too much if it will send you to hell. Your abilities can't heal the wounds this sword gives you," said Kazama. "You became a fury to defeat me, but now that sacrifice means nothing." "Ah," said Hijikata. He prodded experimentally at the wound on his chest and climbed slowly to his feet. "So tell me if I've got this right. All I have to do is avoid getting cut by that thing? Hell, before I became a fury, all I did was dodge swords. This'll be easy." "Does your impudence know no bounds?" said Kazama. "Fine, I'll put your short-lived defiance to the test." The demon slayer's blade flickered with blue-white light and almost seemed to shiver in concert with Kazama's murderous intent. Suddenly the air seemed thick and oppressive. It was an effort just to breathe, and when I looked at Kazama, my skin began to crawl. His sword dropped toward Hijikata. "Ah!" He dodged the demon slayer, albeit only barely, and brought his own sword up to strike back. But when the Kanisada arrived, Kazama had simply disappeared. No, I realized, he hadn't disappeared. He was simply moving too fast for the eye to see. Hijikata seemed to be able to keep up, but the margin for error was slim and getting slimmer. "Gah!" said Hijikata. Kazama dodged Hijikata's attack with ease, and his riposte slammed into the other man's shoulder, tearing his shirt away to display a fresh, ragged wound. "Good, good," said Kazama. "Your mind is working desperately, trying to discover how you might kill me. Good, but I want to see more. I want to see your face when you finally realize that you cannot defeat me, that you will die." Ah! Blood poured from Hijikata's wounds, but Hijikata brought his sword up in time to catch the demon slayer. "Grah!" said Hijikata, but he'd lost too much blood and his body was beginning to weaken. Ah! Kazama overpowered him, and Hijikata was thrown back. Then, as if things hadn't gotten bad enough, "What the hell?" said Hijikata. The white had disappeared from Hijikata's hair. "Ah," said Kazama, "reached your limit, I see. Even a false demon is better than this pathetic existence. You might as well be an insect, no, a worm." Kazama's maniacal laugh echoed through the room as he gloated over the nearly unconscious Hijikata. "Now I want to hear you cry, scream, beg me for your life, maggot. You and your filth have stood in my way ever since we met in Kyoto. I'll kill you and erase the Shinsengumi." Hijikata's head twitched. "Erase the Shinsengumi? You..." He'd lost so much blood. I was amazed he was conscious, let alone lucid, but as I watched his hands dug into the floor mat like claws, almost as if he were keeping himself up through sheer force of will. "After we left Kondo and the Shinsengumi fell to me, I felt like there was no way I could do all that by myself. I was just about ready to give it all up. But now, when you say you want to just erase everything we did, I'll be goddamned if I let you destroy the Shinsengumi." Blood poured from his shoulder and his chest, but still he struggled to stand. The sight of him was so powerful, so tragic, that I couldn't bear to watch. If he didn't stop, he would die. I had to do something. And here the choice is stop Kazama or stop Hijikata. Well, I can't stop Kazama. I don't think there's any way Chizuru could do that. But she may just be able to stop Hijikata. So let's go with that one. "Hijikata, no! You're hurt! badly if you use your fury powers." His eyes flicked to me for a moment, and I could see that his mind was already made up. Then they were gone, and he glared at Kazama. And we have another flurry of petals. "You really think I care how much of my future I've got to burn to get this bastard?" asked Hijikata. "I can't let him kill me here. I've risked my life for the Shinsengumi. I can't let this bastard and his damn sword get the best of me now." "You're practically dead already," said Kazama. "What do you intend to do? This charade is pathetic." Kazama swung his sword again, almost lazily. "Ah!" Hijikata tried to lift up his kanesada in time to block, but his right hand refused to respond, and Kazama's sword slammed into his right shoulder. He let out a strangled scream as his arm twitched in pain, his sword tumbling from his grasp. Hijikata's clothes were soaked in blood, and his skin was the colour of paper. Only rage and pure willpower kept him upright, but even they were beginning to waver. "I'd hoped you might give me a little more entertainment, but I suppose it's time for me to say goodbye now," said Kazama. "Shame you don't have enough energy to talk. I miss that dry wit." Hijikata's shoulders shuddered with each laboured breath, but still he glared at Kazama. "What's the matter? Can't hold your sword any more? Where's that samurai spirit, eh?" Hijikata could barely even breathe, but still he raised his sword toward Kazama. The tip of the blade dipped and waved, and blood poured from his wounds, but still he stood. "Please," I begged, "just stop. Don't die." Just looking at him was enough to make me want to scream. Kazama lifted that cruel sword, slick with Hijikata's blood, and smiled. "Oh, how I've waited for this moment. At last I can kill you with my own hands and erase the humiliation you gave me." Then suddenly an ear-splitting detonation tore through the building. The wood of the castle creaked and moaned, and I could smell something burning. "What is this?" said Kazama. Suddenly distracted, Kazama flicked his gaze around the room, looking for the source of the interruption. "Fire! Fire!" shouted a soldier. "Those cowardly sons of bitches set this damn castle on fire when they ran." "We're dead if it catches us," said another soldier. "Come on, we have to get out of here." The fire spread quickly, and in mere moments the roar of it was deafening. Flames began to lick at the walls of the banquet hall. Black smoke poured into the room, rough and irritating in my throat. The flames leapt to the dry wood and paper of the door, and then to the flammable mats covering the floor. Almost immediately the room was plunged into nigh unbearable heat, but neither Hijikata nor Kazama lowered his sword. Both men were waiting for a chance to strike. If either made even the smallest wrong move, he would be cut to ribbons by the other. Tension filled the air until it was as thick as the acrid smoke. "Gah!" said Kazama. With a crackling roar and the moan of tortured wood, a section of a ceiling collapsed to the floor between them. "Urgh!" said Hijikata. "Damn it, this place is coming apart, said Kazama. If I stay any longer, I'll be in danger as well. He shoved the demon slayer back into its scabbard angrily and glared across the flaming wreckage at Hijikata. Hiji, whatever your name is, I'll let you go this time. We'll finish this duel another day, said Kazama. And on that day, I'll finish what we started here. You will die. With one last grotesque, inhuman smile, Kazama disappeared. Hijikata, are you all right? I ran to him. His face was twisted in pain and his skin looked like wax. Practically forgotten until now, Amagiri walked toward us from his corner, seemingly unconcerned with the flames around him. The demon clans no longer intend to involve themselves in your governmental squabbles, said Amagiri. Hijikata looked up at him, confused. When he spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. Why? We owed favours to the Satsuma domain, said Amagiri. We feel that we have now repaid those favours. Besides, even you must know that the shogun will soon fall, regardless of whatever my kin and I do to speed that fall. Hijikata's face curled up in a bitter smile. Yeah. And yet you intend to remain aboard this sinking ship? Asked Amagiri. The Tokugawa never gave your Shinsengumi the recognition it so desired, and betrayed you when you needed them most. Why do you remain loyal? The truth of Amagiri's words drove a knife into Hijikata's heart, and I saw his face fall. He replied with a sad smile. Well, a samurai fights for their lord no matter what, right? What I'm fighting for now isn't Yoshinobu or Edo Castle or any of those cowards that call themselves the shogunate's ministers, said Hijikata. What we're fighting for now is the shogunate in here, in our hearts, and the Shinsengumi that we made to protect that. It's not easy, not by a long shot, but I'd feel like a real bastard if I let it die before Kondo comes back. Amagiri had closed his eyes while Hijikata spoke. Now he stood silent for a moment, then slowly opened them. If Kazama chooses to involve himself with either of you again, he will have betrayed the moral code that binds all of our kind. He will no longer have the support of the clans. He will be on his own, said Amagiri. I imagine this will be of little concern to him, but I ask you to bear in mind, when he next assaults you, that he is not doing so at the behest of the demon clans. He is, I fear, your problem now. Then Amagiri turned and disappeared. Ah, said Hijikata. At last he collapsed, although from relief or simple exhaustion, I couldn't tell. Hijikata, are you okay? But he had passed out. No matter how much I shook him or cried his name, he refused to open his eyes. The fire had grown more intense, and I was beginning to sweat in earnest. If we didn't get out and soon, we would both burn to death. But how could I move Hijikata? He was far too heavy for me to carry on my own. "Commander, Yukimura, where are you?" shouted Shimada. From down the hall came Shimada's voice. In that moment, it was the most beautiful thing I'd ever heard. "Shimada, we're over here. Hijikata is..." Moments later, Shimada burst through the door, scattering sparks and burning fragments across the room. "Commander, hang on. I'll get you out of here." "He just passed out a minute ago, but he's lost a lot of blood. If he doesn't get treated soon, he'll... "Right, okay, I'll carry him," said Shimada. "You'll have to follow behind me. Try not to inhale too much of the smoke." Without even waiting for my reply, Shimada hefted Hijikata onto his back and set off at a jog. "Okay." In the end, it didn't matter. The castle that Hijikata had risked his own life to take was taken back by the imperial army only 4 days later, with nearly 20,000 soldiers from the Satsuma, Choshu, Ogaki and Tottori domains. After the battle, Otori and the rest of his soldiers set out for Aizu. Hijikata had miraculously survived his ordeal, but he was by no means recovered. He drifted in and out of consciousness for days, hovering at death's door, and was eventually sent away from the front to Nikko so he could recover.